Well, good morning. Had a nice little sleep last night in Hotel, I can't remember what it's called now, Hotel Wild Hass. Now, we're in Halbe, I think it's called. Now, in 1945, the 9th Army, Hitler's last army, that had been deployed on the Silo Heights, had obviously been pushed back and was surrounded in the area of the Spree Forest in Halbe. Hitler put orders out to the 12th Army, which was on the Western Front, to help or join up with the 9th Army and then push through to Berlin to protect Berlin. Berlin was already lost, the Russians had surrounded it, but it was Hitler moving his little things around on a map. He actually lost his rag at one of the meetings because the generals totally ignored his orders. So the 12th Army did push towards the 9th, and the only reason was so the 9th Army could break out of the encirclement to save as many lives as they possibly could and to flee west towards the Elbe River and obviously surrender to the Americans, where they'd get better treatment than if they surrendered or were captured by the Russians, because we all know what happened there. They all went off to Siberia, and probably 90% of the German prisoners of war never returned to Germany. So yeah, so the 9th Army decided to break out, and it was a bloodbath.
Battle of the Halbe Pocket was a battle lasting from April 24th to May 1st, 1945, in which the German 9th Army, under the command of General Theodor Buss, was destroyed as a fighting force by the Red Army during the Battle of Berlin. The 9th Army, encircled in a large pocket in the Spree Forest region, southeast of Berlin, attempted to break out westwards through the village of Halbe and the pine forest south of Berlin to link up with the German 12th Army, commanded by General Walther Wenck, with the intention of heading west and surrendering to the Western Allies. To do this, the 9th Army had to fight its way through 3 lines of Soviet troops of the 1st Ukrainian Front under the command of Marshal Ivan Konev, while at the same time units of the 1st Belarusian Front, under the command of Marshal Georgy Zhukov, attacked the German rearguard from the northeast. The casualties on both sides were high. There are about 24,000 Germans buried in the Halbe Forest Cemetery, making it the largest war cemetery in Germany from World War II. About 10,000 are unidentified soldiers killed during the first half of 1945. The Red Army claimed to have killed 60,000 German soldiers and taken 120,000 as prisoners. The number of prisoners is supported by some sources, while other sources consider it to be exaggerated. Thousands of Red Army soldiers died trying to stop the breakout. These are the known dead, but the remains of more who died in the battle are found every year, so the total will never be known. Nobody knows how many civilians died, but it could have been as high as 10,000. After heavy fighting, about 30,000 German soldiers, just over 1/3 of those originally in the pocket, reached the comparative safety of the 12th Army's front lines. The rest were either killed or captured by Soviet forces.
I bet in some places in the forest there's still civilians, German soldiers, Russian soldiers. Buried where they fell. Unknown soldier. 2 unknown soldiers. Unknown soldier. Unknown soldier. Unknown soldier. Unknown soldier. Unknown soldier. That's Walter Stoltz and an unknown soldier. An unknown soldier. unknown soldier. Now I've walked round and most of the graves are unknown soldiers. You've got to think, a lot of these people had fought in the Silo Heights and they were young boys, old men that had been brought in to shore up the shortages. You know, this was the death throes of the German army. This was the last part of it. Some question why these last battles happened. Well, they wanted to get to the Americans. They didn't want to be captured by the Russians. So they'd rather die fighting to get to the American lines with the chance of surviving the war and being free. Like we know now, in hindsight, that the Russians sent a lot of the Germans to the gulags, which were the concentration camps of Russia in Siberia, and many didn't return. They were hard labour. If you returned from those camps, you were a strong person. So basically, this place, obviously this is a cemetery, but in this area, this was the annihilation of Germany's 9th Army. An army that was created in 1940. It was a reserve army in the battle for France. It was obviously kept back as a reserve. It took part in Operation Barbarossa. And then obviously the retreat from the Eastern Front. So the Battle of the Breakout lasted from the 24th of April to the May the 1st, 1945. It was the last part of the war. You know, these people passed away, were killed, trying to escape the Russian encirclement. And some made it, some did make it out. So if you think about it, the size of the 9th Army that was trapped in this pocket was 80,000. That is more than what the British Army is now. Okay, the breakout of Halbe, is it Halbe? I don't know. Came from in that direction, and we're in the area of the station. We'll have a look at the station, and there was fierce battles around here with the Russians as the German 9th Army, or the remnants of it, tried to battle its way through to break out the encirclement and save as many military and civilian personnel as it could. You can still see splat marks in that building. Yeah, so the breakout came from in that direction towards the station here to the level crossing, and there was fierce battles here. There was bodies everywhere, tanks and other military equipment just strewn everywhere, destroyed. And then they battled along the street up there towards the woods in the distance. We'll have a walk down the main street because it's got to go back to the car anyway. And they battled all the way along there and they managed to break through. But yeah, I mean the 9th Army was involved in the crushing of the Warsaw Uprising. Still splat marks. Yeah, look all the splat marks around that window. That could be gunfire, it could be shrapnel. Right, so let's go and get to the level crossing and then walk down the main street back towards the car, and that is the route that they took. Okay, so we're coming up to the level crossing now. Turn the camera around. As I said before, that's the direction of the breakthrough coming out from the woods there, and they're pushing along here, fighting hard, like real intense battles. Obviously mixed in, it's not just the military, it's not just the 9th Army, it's also civilians trying to escape from the Russians as well. You know, these German army units have created, obviously done untold things in Russia while they were pushing through Russia and retreating through Russia and Poland. So here's a level crossing. So they would have battled their way across here, bodies everywhere, military and civilian. The church is over there, that was half, top of the spire was blown up, that's obviously a new one. You can kind of tell how annihilated this place was because it's all pretty new. There's hardly any old buildings. You find that a lot in Germany, a lot of where the places where the battles took place are levelled. So that was the state of the church. And this is the main street. They pushed their way through here and fought along this road to that place there, Two Pits. So the Autobahn is just up here as well. So they fought their way along this street all the way to the Autobahn and then into the woods, and then linked up with the 12th Army. So they pushed their way through here under constant air attack and artillery. hoping that they could break out of the Russian encirclement, the cauldron, hell's cauldron.
By May 1st, the fighting had ceased and civilians slowly emerged from their cellars to a horrific sight. The streets were filled with bodies, piled so high that the asphalt was no longer visible. The aftermath left the streets and forests littered with corpses, attracting swarms of flies. During the warm days of May, a stench of decay spread rapidly through Halbe and the surrounding areas. The Soviets tasked the population, including children, with clearing away the dead to prevent epidemics.
Okay, thanks for watching. I think this is going to be the last video of this trip. I did want to come here. Last night I looked at how far away I was. I just wanted to have a look, really. You know, this was the last real breakout of the German army. It's quite sad, really, that the amount of civilians that were caught up in, and the people, the force from the concentration camps. You know, it was so close to the end of the war. So close. Berlin was surrounded. Hitler sat in his bunker and was just about to pull the trigger and kill himself. And then it was a few days afterwards that the Germans surrendered. Unconditional surrender. You know, what a waste of life, really. That's right, so tatty pies for now. And I'll speak to you again soon. I'll probably be back on the cut. Tatty pies.